Hello and welcome back to the LCS Summer presented by State Farm. FlyQuest are currently 1-0 in our series. Azale, are you ready for Game 2?
You saw the tweet. Someone tweeted that
I did.
He forgot to do this, and then I just knew he was going to do it because that's just a freak thing to do. And
Well,
here we are.
I didn't do it for any of playoffs. I was like, you know, it was a regular season thing, but then
I was so proud of you.
Yeah, I'm proud of me too, but then,
I'm
you know, I
not
did
proud
this,
of you
so
anymore.
now I'm not either. Anyway, Team Liquid had an 8-game winning streak put down by FlyQuest, who took Game 1 of the series. This will be the first ever LCS Finals for FlyQuest if they were to close the series out. Incredible play so far. It's already the first time at Worlds, the 3rd seed regular season. Looking to make this one keep on going. We'll see what they can do for this one as we are into Game 2. Team Liquid with side selection as the losers of Game 1 stay on blue, and the bans look awfully similar.
Well, they did make finals in spring. We have to remember that. They got
you're right.
swept out by Cloud9. But, you know, it would honestly be a pretty incredible year if you think about them making it to finals in both splits. You know, this organization, I think, has really just had such an incredible year, that both as far as performance and branding and everything. FlyQuest has been having an amazing time. Team Liquid, obviously, a slip in spring, back to their winning ways, it feels like, in summer, but they are looking to do more than just perform in the regular season. They want to win another championship. They had won 4 straight prior to spring, and that is kind of their baseline of expectation. They are going to change something up here. Is not that first pick Shen. It will be towards the Caitlyn. I expect Solo to go to the Shen. That makes sense. Now, I'm curious if Team Liquid will then grab the Mordekaiser or GP right here. That is kind of what I'm expecting, and I'm expecting TL to not play the dive comp. I think they're just going to go back to how they were playing in the regular season, which is front-to-back team fight, more like what FlyQuest style was. You know, so you could go for something like GP Orianna and just play front-to-back, slow standard, team fight 5v5 that Team Liquid is so good at. You know, Mordekaiser, I think, makes a lot of sense. It was between this and GP for me, so not really surprised whatsoever.
Definitely interesting seeing what's coming through now in this draft. FlyQuest putting an increased priority onto the Azir, saying it's really important to keep this off of Jensen. His most played this split by far with 7 picks is Azir for Jensen. And PoE, of course, a great teamfight mage player himself, hops off the Orianna, hops off Syndra, says, no, it's okay. We're going to do some more of this one, so Team Liquid going to move on and grab their own team fight mage. And I know we were talking in the commercial break about what could that last pick for TL have been. And, of course, Orianna was on the table the whole time to make Game 1's comp a team fight comp instead of a dive comp. End of the day, they now have the Orianna here as well. And, of course, I think you have to answer with Ashe here. You have to grab that before it's too late. Otherwise, the AD carry tier list drops off a cliff. And so this is always the lock-in, I think.
Yep, unless you're willing to go down to like the Jhin or whatever, or you want to play something super aggressive like Lucian or Kalista, maybe, but that really doesn't feel like FlyQuest style. So everything going very much to expectation, I would say, especially on TL style. You know, something I kind of notice when I'm watching them is I do think that they are individually very proficient on these different style of champions. Like Broxah piloted the Heck Room well, and Jensen's a great Akali, but their team as a whole looks less comfortable when they are playing that style. So makes sense to see them just go back to the way they have won for years and years. Front to back, 5v5. FlyQuest may just want to try to ban out Morgana, Tahm Kench, go towards the Thresh again. That was very successful for them last time, but of course Team Liquid would have the last ban, you know, to be able to answer that with a Thresh ban if they are at all concerned about that pick, because it was very successful in enabling IgNar to really get things done.
Interesting to see. Team Liquid respects Hecarim as the best jungler in the game, and I'm going to guess they have scrim data for probably scrimming FlyQuest some throughout the back half of the year and into the early playoff setup as well, because Hecarim has not yet been seen on Santorin's champion pool, but is banned away here by TL. Of course, they early picked it. Blue 2-3 in the first game there as well, saying, no, we're going to keep that off Santorin. Santorin drops off the Olaf as the next one
Shen
down after Lee Sin Graves, and yeah. And now we're going to see what comes next.
I think it could be an Eve ban, honestly. I think that Shen as well as Eve is also a really, really strong combo.
Yeah. Eve got banned
exactly. It got banned in the first game as well. Or sorry, excuse me. It always was already banned out in the first half. So that is another combo that can be very powerful. You know, I'm just wondering, you know, are they most concerned about the dive? They are going to take away the Thresh. Tahm Kench was left up, so it wasn't necessarily what FlyQuest was actually going to be looking towards, but things like Lee Sin still available, you know, is a favorite for both of these guys, but
Set is up, and they're actually not grabbing it. I am
so it's last
surprised.
I think they're looking for a jungle counter pick, right? Like they're essentially, I think, looking for some sort of a winning matchup for Santorin, I think, and that is why they're not going to go for the set here. I mean, set, I think, is strong. I think that the set was enabled pretty heavily by the Thresh as well, with, you know, entrance into a lot of these ganks. Caitlyn Lux, I really like. This is incredibly powerful. I tend to actually think this is probably the strongest laning duo that's played in pro play, maybe just in the game period right now.
Agreed.
It has so much zoning, especially when you're going up against the Rakan. Rakan adds almost nothing to this lane without gank assistance. You can't just go in. And this lane, if it has push, is so incredibly hard to lane against, because if they get the push, what they will do is they'll set up traps on one side of the tower, they will drop the Loosen Singularity, the Lux E on the other side of the tower, and you just have nowhere to step without being harassed. You have nowhere to step to safely farm. If you try to squeeze past a gap in a trap, you can easily get hit by a binding. It is going to be Volibear for Broxah, so pretty safe standard style of pick. We could see something like the Kindred if you wanted to go for, you know, something that is more of a scaling pick and has a bit of an advantage here. Kha'Zix would be interesting, you know, for the added dive alongside the Shen. You have the Stand United on the Kha'Zix. You have the Rakan to come through. I've been seeing this pick played some in the LEC as well as in some of the other regions. There are a lot of squishy members over on the Team Liquid side. Generally, Kha'Zix feels pretty feast or famine to me, but I do think alongside Rakan and Shen, you have the dive buddies there. You have the ability to get going in this game, but it does feel like it would be pretty difficult to win any sort of a 1v1 against the Volibear, who is going to be tanky enough to kind of withstand your burst and, you know, has a pretty strong clear himself. But we'll see what Santorin can get done with this. It is going to be his first play on the champion this split, and I'm trying to remember if there's even been a single Kha'Zix play in the LCS this split. I tend to think
I want to say yes,
but we could get it confirmed. Yeah, there may have been one here or there.
Yeah. Regardless, a very exciting thing. We get last pick for Santorin is to play Kha'Zix into this one. I want to see if TL can be split up enough that he can find the isolated damage. Kha'Zix is good because of the isolated Q, dealing more than double damage there on targets. And you have to, of course, get that one to happen. Of course, the gank assist can be good as well. You've got fairly reliable CC in a couple of slows, so we'll see if that can come through. Regardless, we are on to the Rift for Game 2. We are back to Team Liquid playing a team fight-focused composition. 4 LCS titles in the last 5 splits. A blip in spring, but back to the top performer in summer. Can they do it again is the question. Meanwhile, FlyQuest are on their way to maybe their second LCS final and their first ever title. If they can keep this one going, as we are going to have this upper bracket final match happen here today. FlyQuest 1-0 Team Liquid.
It's going to be a good one. I mean, if FlyQuest wins this game, it just gives them so much momentum in the series. You know, they have had the ability to bring out some counter picks and some unique champion selects, you know, already in playoffs with some of the spicy picks coming out of PowerOfEvil. So you don't want to put them in a position where they can kind of just take a swing like that. You know, Team Liquid back on comfort. They need to perform here, I think. You know, settle down the nerves, see if they can really run over this game. And I do think they have the ability to do that through bottom lane, because I think this is such a heavily favored 2v2 towards TL's side. Really the only chance that FlyQuest has is, you know, post 6, looking for an engage, or having the jungler come down and finding, you know, flash engage onto CoreJJ and Tactical. Because Rakan adds almost 0 in the 2v2, and Lux and Caitlyn are two of the strongest lane bullies in the game.
Yeah, I'm looking at what's going to happen here as we get the early jungle starts, and of course Santorin gets the red pretty much instantly. That's the champion for you. He did go for mana regeneration and AoE, so he can knock down things like the Raptors pretty easily. But you talk about this 2-on-2. I think it's so absurdly TL favored.
Yeah.
The way this is supposed to work in you know, a conventional world where the champions are relatively balanced is, okay, you've got kind of an enchanter in Lux on one side and a you know, engaged tank on the other. You know, by being kind of vague here, right? It's like, okay, that means that it flips whenever the engage is good and you can do enough damage to break through the shielding. But this is pre-nerf Lux. The W shield's absurd. And he's running Guardian. Guardian is also just incredibly, incredibly strong. And that just means that there's not enough damage, really, on the Rakan plus Ashe to actually break through all the Lux shielding. That you hard engage and they go, okay, light binding, and we didn't lose any health. So nice engage.
And I mean, it gets even worse because he's going Relic Shield, so he has flat health there. He's even going Bone Plating, you know, which can be difficult to poke off unless you can get some volleys in before the engage. So there's like all these little things you have to do to even have a chance of it working. Plus the Lux is playing heal. They have Cleanse over on Tactical, so the Ashe arrow isn't going to be necessarily as effective. And there's no heal over on Turtle because he has to respect the CC chain of any sort of binding into trap combo. Because if you don't have cleanse and you get hit by one binding, that full combo can just be death.
Yeah, and it's why Turtle ran cleanse, and it's why IgNar has no potions already. He tried to fight for minions under the turret, took a light binding, took a Caitlyn trap, took a Q auto, and that was 300 health gone. Right there. Yep. IgNar gets his shield back, heals back up for 40, and CoreJJ just walks at him and says, I mean, I'll just, do 40 damage to you. He's still Relic Shield on the Lux. It's still the more defensive option to play around all inning, but, I mean, Core could just chain farm gold by just using Spell Thieves and says, no, I'll go for the risk-averse option. It's fine, but I'm just not killable.
Yep, exactly. If you think that there's no way that they can actually win it out without an all-in, then this is the smarter build to go for. And he can look for those W trades where he just shields himself, walks forward, and if FlyQuest trade into the shield, they're going to lose that pretty heavily. You can see the beginnings of what I was talking about here. Obviously, in earlier levels, you don't have enough traps to fully cover the line, but trap on each side of the turret, then Lux E will actually cover that whole gap on the left side of that tower, meaning you can't both avoid the poke and actually farm here as WildTurtle, and that's where you have to try to start squeezing around the traps. You open yourself up to potential bindings. It just becomes incredibly difficult. I mean, they lost a turret plate on like the second wave, so it's definitely tough.
Wave 4 knocked it down. All right, well, we keep on going to this one as TL have the early lead. The farm is +9, and that is because Turtle can't last hit everything under turret. It's hard for IgNar to help. Overall, he's going to walk around with some ward coverage himself, and maybe a Scryer's Plume. First recall's coming through on a couple of different sides as the final recall comes out of the mid lane. PowerOfEvil still going for Naturals first as he picks up Phoenix Codex. Might see that match soon by Jensen. He's going to take this recall now as well as TP comes in for both sides. It's going to be a different Keystone I want to point out. PowerOfEvil, I believe, was not Comet in Game 1. He's Lethal Tempo. Switched over to Comet so he can do more poke here in his one-on-one against his lane opponent. Still get a bunch of mana through his rune choices.
Yep. And against the Akali, the lethal tempo is more just you hit the Akali with a Q, you get the lethal tempo, and then you shove the wave relentlessly. In this matchup, he knows that Jensen will be able to trade back, playing a range versus range matchup here. So he does want the Comet to be able to kind of compete with that poke a little bit more. It is also confirmed that this is actually the first LCS Kha'Zix this split, so was right with that one, and Santorin. We'll see how well he can perform. As I said, it has been played in other regions, but first time in LCS this split.
Yeah, cool stuff to see. And Santorin, who has been a very team-heavy jungler, first blood king of the league, spends a lot of time near his support and the rest of his team as well. Let's see what he can do on this assassin. Currently down one camp as recalls come through. Red Smite plus a longsword as he moves on, and of course this first Drake is alive. Infernal, we won't have Infernal still, but Santorin wants in for the fight right away. IgNar can't quite jump over the wall. Santorin couldn't move to the right to get him out, but it does mean that Broxah is forced to run for his life.
And when you have that upfront burst, the fight starts looking pretty bad for Santorin. The reason Broxah really has to run is because he knows that IgNar is there. And IgNar is in a pretty risky spot. He is potentially on the flank here, but if he gets spotted, I mean, who are you flanking? No one's with you.
Yeah, has the Blast Cone and decides to go back towards the lane instead of over towards the Drake. That could have been a danger because Core can easily land the Q, wake up the Dragon. Dragon knocks him back. IgNar probably dies. So I would have probably gone to jump over the wall and died. IgNar is smarter. He goes, no, we're just going to go away, make sure I'm never CC'd. Breaking the wall is not the important part.
All right, well, he is able to get out of there. So far, pretty calm game here. Does scoop in Jensen, but doesn't have enough damage, I don't think.
Yeah, I just chunked him about 350, and that's not too bad as Impact's going to take down top Scuttle. And doesn't it feel amazing when you get Scuttle Crab as a laner? Yeah. You get like all your health and mana back. It's like half a level of XP. Not quite half a level, but it's a lot. I'm a bot laner, okay? XP means more to me because I'm like level 4 for the entire game. My context is different than yours.
It is really nice. And, I think really the move that PowerOfEvil is going for there is just to get lane control because Jensen's teleport was on cooldown, so he was just trying to get priority there. But because the honey fruits were actually up, Jensen didn't have to base. So, not only did they get that Scuttle Crab, because Impact moved down, he had control of the river, was able to go for those honey fruit. Broxah moving over here, though. We'll probably just try to help him push it out. Oh, okay.
Shockwave comes in. Kiwi saved the E cooldown until it was back, though, and Santorin waiting around the side says, are you going to go for more? Actually, Jensen is. Gets hit, gets slowed, puts the ward down, sees Santorin with it, and backs right off.
they need to push us in. You know, I kind of want Santorin to move over with PoE, because if they could have actually defended that a little bit more, they could have potentially set up a freeze and forced Jensen to stay around. Because the reason Broxah comes there is obviously, yes, he's hoping to get a kill, but really, realistically, you're just trying to push in the wave to allow Jensen to reset. Because Jensen has no teleport, had no mana, low health, so he needed to go back to base, and that's why they tried to get it pushed into the tower there. Maybe FlyQuest could have played it a little bit differently and tried to defend that a bit more aggressively. Because Jensen didn't have Shockwave and because he didn't have much mana or health, I feel like they might have been able to pull that off.
At the end of the day, it's going to be the case where Team Liquid are up 400 gold, and it's mostly through bottom lane. BF Sword plus a pickaxe. Recall comes through the bottom lane. Very rich recall for Tactical. It's the later one to get 2 items in for this one. It'll be a much bigger power split. You can see BF Sword Longsword. It's Turtle going for more arrows, more cooldown reduction, doing the Essence Reaver build here on Ashe. That said, he is against a fairly melee-heavy team. This wouldn't be a bad Ruin King Hurricane game, but if he's going to be, you know, dealing with Death Realm from Mordekaiser, sometimes you can't get some of that value. So we'll see as FlyQuest are just going to knock down waves across the board, and we'll see what the recalls are and everyone else.
Yeah, 2 plates already taken by the TL bot lane, you know, as expected, going pretty heavily in their favor. Ashe arrow does connect, but not on the person they thought it was going to. You know, the other reason I've really heard a lot of people talking about Essence Reaver specifically against the Caitlyn's is it allows you to really tax the cleanse. You know, most Caitlyn's are going towards the cleanse. You have the lower CDR on your ultimate, and it gives you some ability to try to constantly fire out those ultimates and force out the cleanse perhaps with the first one, then look for a kill with the second. We'll see if they're able to do that, but TL does have bot lane priority. Still no one has taken a dragon, so it's quite a late first dragon. We're approaching 10 minutes here. You know, no quick souls will be had this game, but it does feel like TL have a pretty heavy advantage going over towards this. FlyQuest, though, moving over. We'll see if they want to fight.
Pretty good so far as the money's coming through. The Drake is getting lower, and that's going to be an easy smite for Broxah. Claimed without much issue. Going to go ahead and chomp it instead. TL Flare comes up from the squad and said, hey, good job. We got a pretty good early lead here. 500 gold up for ourselves. Ain't bad. Gotta say, Turtle's recall ended up being okay despite how much he's been getting crushed in the bottom lane here. Down CS, down plates. Still able to get a decent buy down, which feels pretty good. We'll see what TL can do next as Solo's forced to run away from Impact. He's gonna put him in the Death Realm. They're gonna go for a big play down here as Volibear's on the way over, Orianna on the way as well. Solo gonna hold on to his dash away and try to get out from this one, and turns out he's gonna be fine.
Yeah, so Solo, I think, was moving down both for the Scuttle Crab, but also just to try to zone Impact off of farm, because you know the wave was actually pushing against Impact, which meant those minions Impact wanted to farm up were getting killed off. So just trying to go for a little bit of a move to essentially tax the resources there of TL, take away some of that golden experience, as he will be able to pick up most, if not all, this wave once it comes to him at the turret.
Nice little chunk of damage right there. Plus 184 as he gets the isolated Q for good damage. So not just Kha'Zix, but Mordekaiser gets the isolated Q mechanics. Nice pull in. Dodge is going to block the auto. Impact still able to get just the damage across to turn on the passive, and that means still has to disengage from this fight.
And so far, I do feel like TL is got to be really happy with the start of this. Santorin, though, to the top side, he's got no ult.
Big damage. As you said, no Death Realm. Impact doesn't have a good way out. He's going to keep trying for his life, deal a little bit of damage, but First Blood is going to come through under 11 minutes on a Santorin. Bot lane, meanwhile, under fire. There's the first arrow. It's going to land on a CoreJJ. Double shield comes across, and look how slowly he dies. Finally flashes for his life. Lux Laser comes out. Turtle's a bit low. Forces Tactical to walk away as Volley lands. You can see 2 summoners burn for 2 summoners. But despite every bit of CC landing, that TL bot lane lives.
Yeah, not quite enough to burst him down there. I do like the target selection because Cleanse is over on Tactical, so you have to go for the Lux. At the very least, they get the higher value summoner, and we see PowerOfEvil here trying to push them off. Broxah can go for the flash, though.
Flash stun and a shockwave. Shen coming for defense, scoops backwards. Get me away from them. PoE just stays alive. 100 health left on him as he regens back up. Solo comes in and turn it off.
And at the very least, they push him off that Rift Herald. Broxah looking like he wants to start this back up, but now Santorin's around here, so I don't think they can go for it. PowerOfEvil will go back to base, but he has teleport. Jensen has no shockwave. TL is moving their bottom lane up towards top, though, and this is the same thing that happened last game. It feels like FlyQuest just have higher priority on getting that farm and gold onto Turtle. This is the exact same response they had last time. They just left Turtle down in that bottom lane to get solo farm, to try to get some turret plates. Now, though, Turtle is bailing out of going down to bottom lane and walking over, but maybe he's going to be too late.
He's got Xerxes, so at least he runs fast, but no arrow up right now. In fact, he's out of most summoners, so we'll see if he can do anything, but he's on the way. It's about 5 seconds out until he can be a part of this fight. Pull comes in. IgNar getting low. Gotta watch out for this one. He's in the Death Realm. IgNar cannot live through this. Impact should pretty much always get this kill. There's the Q slam. There's the stats. They're ready to go. Good smite steal, but FlyQuest cannot easily grab the Herald itself. A flash backwards. Broxah not going to find more than just that stun. But the eye is timing out. The smite steal ends up meaning that plates will not drop on their side, but neither will FlyQuest play many for themselves.
Okay, so a bit of a wash. I guess they deny the Rift Herald. They do lose their support, but you know, they don't get all of the farm on the bot side that they could have gotten from sending Turtle down. It did feel like a bit of a split decision there, though, as Turtle was heading out of base straight down to bottom lane, and then they made the late call to rotate him up towards that Rift Herald to try to get something back. And with Impact picking up plates on the back end of this, it's definitely slightly favored for TL. But here it is one more time. IgNar trying to move forward to try to create some zone of threat. Solo tanking up a little bit of that damage, but IgNar getting put into the Death Realm. And then it's up to the smite steal here from Santorin, who does find the opportunity to go in, land the smite, and then just go for the straight up retreat.
At that point, yeah, flash away from Solo keeps him alive on the way out, and end of the day, didn't want to be CC chained through Caitlyn. His dodge zone was down, otherwise you're safe to take that one. Just press QW and you can immune that for a while. It's actually one of the really big things. This is something that's going to be, I think, very useful for Shen down the line, is putting down the dodge zone lets you play around the, like, Caitlyn traps your TP shenanigans. Because it shows up in time that, like, the dodge zone shows up almost before you do. In a lot of cases with Stand United, you just jam that button and it will be there for you. And you can do a lot to keep someone alive through dangerous situations. Very auto-attack focused. Here comes the binding combo. This time around, though, Cupcake didn't quite come down in time, and IgNar, with Merc Treads as a result, gets out.
Oh, Broxah just barely sidestepped that arrow.
Got the red steal. He's got very large numbers of slows. There's a shield. There's an ult away. Santorin flash to get away from no CC, but Jensen's on the way, Cora's on the way, just barely won't dodge won't land the binding, and a red steal and an escape for FlyQuest jungler.
I think he was worried about the Lux binding coming through. I'm not sure if it was a Lux E or a binding coming out from CoreJJ, but it looked like that was when he was flashing, you know, seeing that Tactical's ultimate was coming through. Had WildTurtle's arrow landed, definitely would have been that kill on Santorin. It was very close to getting it. In the end, they do have to flash defensively, but they will get priority over this Dragon Pit. Broxah had to use his ult defensively and went back to base, so FlyQuest grab a Dragon for themselves and do even it up as far as that goes. And this game, again, is very close, you know, relatively slow-paced in this early stage, but TL now, I think, are on a better comp for their sort of style compared to last game. You know, they're not the ones that have to make the aggressive plays. They can sit back. They can just comfortably, you know, farm it up and look for the front to back 5v5s where I think they really excel. And generally speaking, though IgNar has maybe higher potential to make a big play happen, just Lux shields across the whole team with the support Lux just become insanely valuable later in the game. You know, he's rushing towards what's potentially an Athene's, you know, could be going towards a Mikhail's or something for the Ashe arrow, but, you know, when you have that Athene's, it's so easy to charge it up and then just throw out this max shield across your team, hit multiple members, and get incredible value.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen how well that's worked before. I remember last week with the Golden Guardians TSM series, yeah, he had an incredible Lux game overall. I expect CoreJJ to do a lot of this as well. Now, that said, of course, he is not on a big playmaker. Things like his Rakan and Blitzcrank have done so much work for the squad. He makes Tom Kench look exciting. In this case, Cora is going to be, to be honest, mostly on shield duty, and sometimes that can be a squander of his talents. You get less light binding playmaking than you get, you know, Rakan ult flank playmaking. May still be the right comp. As you mentioned, TL have very, very good team fight instincts. They've got good carries in all the roles, and you're going to see as they are knocking the turret down here, it's yet again another post-15-minute first turret of the game. They keep their 5-game playoff streak of no turrets fall for either side of the pre-15. I will track that for the rest of playoffs if I can, because I found that so compelling. I'll track it during Worlds too, you know, just there you go. On the way.
Yeah. It is interesting, right? And it really says a lot about their playstyle. They also have some of the least bloody, if not the least bloody games in the LCS with, you know, very low combined kills per minute, but they're going for the engage on Jensen.
Big knockup, big charm. Jensen gets away, just Shockwave re-engage on a 3. PoE gets flashed over the wall, and Broxah finds that kill. And he's going to find a slow. He's going to find more. This could be 3 picked up. Santorin's got no way out, nor does IgNar. The shields come in, and he's just going to put in the auto attacks. CoreJJ knocks that one down. A 3 for 0 off the FlyQuest dive.
That is the potential of those defensive shields coming through here from TL. The Lux shield coming across, the Seraph shield coming across, and Jensen with the Command Protect as well became incredibly tanky there. And when they fail that dive, they lose so much for it. Because it even looked like it was a shutdown, perhaps from the farm advantage over on PowerOfEvil, because I saw 550 gold pop up. So 3 kills plus a shutdown there is enormous.
A lot of assists on the Jensen, whose Seraphs is already done here as well. It's just adding and adding and adding, and man, they just cannot kill these champions off. Defensive options working well, Mordekaiser's working well, and you can see now the turrets all in a row. Dropping. Bot lane fell. They moved Tactical and CoreJJ top side. Top lane fell. He's on huge items here. Infinity Edge, Berserker's Greaves. Going towards the next crit item. We'll see when that comes through, but he is just demolishing structures right now, and the gold lead is ballooning to 3,000 already.
And things looking really good for TL, because when you're playing this style of composition, kind of similar to what it was like for TL last time, when you're playing Kha'Zix as well as Rakan, you need to have the upfront damage. You need to be strong enough that when you dive in there, you can get those kills. They do find a pick here.
That's a lot of CC, layered a bit, but it's still a chunk of burst. IgNar is going to drop, but Shen's going to trade it back. Now Santorin's low, turns Invis, gets the auto, gets the second kill. Scoop back, keeps him safe. PoE can no longer be attacked by Impact. He's stuck on the other side of the wall. Death Realm be damned. And now the slows come in at 2. Turtle can chase down towards Impact. And how much can they even defend? The taunt comes in. Solo! He gets too low. He didn't have the dodge so back up. But Volley finds him. The trap, the crit. It's a 45% chance, and he gets the coin flip. Tactical walking with 3 health left. Do you believe it? Team Liquid gonna find a bit more. PowerOfEvil! Check your PayPal, Team Liquid. Find a 4th kill.
Oh no, PowerOfEvil, he wanted to pop the shield there because he was getting ulted by Tactical, so he wanted to go for the E forward, but does try to go for the kill at the same time, and Tactical just pops him like a balloon. The gold going even more in the favor of TL there. Very close fight, back and forth, such small amounts of health, keeping TL in the advantage.
Well, they're going to find some damage. Going for it again. The charm knock up the taunt over the top. Look at the damage they can deal, but yet Jensen refuses to die. Team Liquid are paid by Steve. They're paid by FlyQuest diving. Solo running out of health. He's going to drop there as well.
Oh man, just barely not enough health every single time, it feels like. In that last fight even, sure they killed him, but it required so much to actually get the kill. This is 3 straight hard engages onto Jensen. They've only got the kill 1 single time. That Lux paying dividends. The defensive shielding coming out from Orianna really paying off big time too. And FlyQuest, this is one of those situations where you're like, if I just had 1 more longsword, if I just had a couple hundred more gold, Jensen would die the first time, Jensen would die the second time, Jensen would die the third time. But that's not the game we are playing in. And in the Honda performance replay here, you can see this happen one more time. The Ashe arrow, I think they were looking for that pick onto Broxah or Jensen. They get the arrow onto the priority target. They go straight in, but both sides of the shield did land from the Lux. It looked over onto Jensen, and so much was committed to that kill. The ultimate coming across from Impact, though, onto PowerOfEvil. Really nice disengage from PowerOfEvil, just going back into the corridor, using the Azir ultimate to cover that entire area. And then as they look for the re-engage here, critically, Turtle stepped onto a trap. He doesn't see this trap actually placed, and as he's retreating, he steps right back into it, giving that headshot over to Tactical. And then as you called out, that 45% chance for that last crit does get the kill. And then PowerOfEvil here, I think he wants to E4 because he's worried, will I actually survive? But he probably could have survived either way, and just tried to go for the big play, tried to E in, finished off Tactical, who would have been only 1 auto. Then again, Jensen, that has been the name of the game. R/W right in on the Jensen, taunt layering over top of that, but not quite enough. The shielding again, both sides of it, positioned by CoreJJ, landing on him. The return of that shields for even more than the first half. Jensen lands through that CC. A little bit of overlap there from FlyQuest allowed him to get that Command Protect out, and that's the difference. It's these tiny things that are allowing Jensen to survive. And
it was in both fights, Azil. Both times, someone on FlyQuest was wasting crowd control on his target already stunned. When the Ashe arrow landed on Jensen, IgNar went for the charm W. Like, this guy's stunned for 3 seconds. You can just walk up W and then charm after he lands, and you get another full second of CC, despite the Merc Treads. And then Jensen dies with no shockwave. Everyone's full health. You keep going, right? That works a lot better. Second time around, the guy's still in mid-air, and Solo goes for the taunt. Like, you can wait these things out and play them better. When someone's 40 health from living, that means a half-second longer taunt is the difference between winning and losing. And so they are mistakes that, you know, they're getting hyphy, it's the upper bracket finals, I get it, but they are mistakes that you cannot make at the highest level.
It's true, and it's tough, right? Because, you know, their worry, and I'm sure what they would tell you, is that if I wait that split second too long, then he flashes before I can get that taunt, or he gets the command protect in between and the same thing happens. So, yep, you have to walk that line, and this time FlyQuest was not able to execute perfectly. And with all the shielding coming through from CoreJJ in every single one of those plays, you know, both halves of the Lux shield were landing onto the CC Jensen because of some good play by CoreJJ. It just becomes so hard. And now you're FlyQuest, who have these champions that need to dive in with the Kha'Zix and with the Shen and with this Recon, and you are down 6,000 gold. And this is a position from which Team Liquid almost never loses.
Oh, that's big. His dodge was pulled back, and Solo's running out of health. He is going to die for this one. Thumbs down, goodbye. What a pullback for Rempak. Gets him the kill. Bot lane tier 2 is going to drop, and Team Liquid weather the storm. They survive the dives, and they are now so ahead. They are ready to push in.
Oh, headshot crit, ultimate. Turtle back to base with you. Lost about 60-70% of his health there, and they're just tanking this up now, but the Ashe arrow comes through, and you're going to take a lot of damage.
And it is Broxah tanking turret shots there, so he does lose a fair bit of health. The second turret hits him, the shields come through for Lux. He's going to stay alive, and a bit of time is gained. Now they're going for the play again. Here comes the knock-up and the charm, and a whole heap of damage, but Jensen gets the shield. Command protects, Seraph's Embrace, walks away, stays alive.
Again, can't actually burst him through that Seraph's Embrace. Santorin played that incredibly well. He actually waited until the shockwave, you know, finished and then went over top of it, essentially playing just to the other side of the ability while IgNar was able to get over top. So they played that about as well as they could have, but still not quite enough damage to actually finish it off. I'm not sure if IgNar's Ignite was available during that engage. That might have made the difference, but you know, FlyQuest are just in this spot where they are forced to engage constantly, and they just aren't having enough gold, enough stats to really, you know, burst people down. So we'll see if they can make any sort of magic happen. But TL really in control of this one and playing the composition that they are most comfortable with, playing this front-to-back style of fight that they really did dominate with in this summer split.
It's very dominant so far. I mean, Team Liquid, their best split ever in a regular season, looking at a very good playoff run so far as well, and see what more they can do out of this one as FlyQuest try to play a more aggressive composition, relying on IgNar's strengths as a very, very good engaged player, and his Recon is certainly incredible, but just not quite there. The defensive build out of Jensen with the Seraphs, with the Merc Tread, that's worked out for him so far. And TL off 2 Drakes so far. The third one spawns in 20 seconds, but they are looking at Baron right now on the map.
Going to be setting up vision around that. They don't have the most powerful engage, but when you're ahead and your opponents have to come to you, you don't really need the best engage. You can play out of vision, you know, fish for bindings, start up objectives, and place the Orianna ball, you know, in these corridors where you know your opponents are going to have to come through. And you can also see them just starting to take away more and more of the jungle, impact and soul up this dragon. And it is going to be an Ocean Soul, which is really, really strong when you do have some of these fairly durable frontliners with the Volibear and the Mordekaiser. You have them getting shielded up by your backline. It is extremely unlikely that they would get burst down, which means you're going to get a lot out of that regen over the course of the fight.
It means you win conventional fights, and it means that you've got to one-shot Jensen, because otherwise he's going to regen his health back on a failed play. So Drake is picked up, soloed by Impact. Nicely done there. He's happy at his 6,000 gold lead. Double Ocean Drake's going to help him regen as he waits around the map as well. Slowly regenning through ability damage as well. And now we can see that the Baron vision is gone. Team Liquid own the top river, and we'll see where they want to play around it.
Yep, they also have really low risk when they're actually starting up a Baron, because you have a true tank with a Volibear, and then Lux and Orianna shields being spammed out constantly across your team. IgNar does have an angle on a flank, but he is separated from his squad.
Santorin gets away, but now the stun's going to find IgNar. Thankfully for him, he's got Merc Treads and jumps out before Shockwave can catch him. So that is an ulti on cooldown, but otherwise, TL still in control of the top side. And oh my gosh, that bind was close. Broxah tanks an arrow, gets the shield, and not an easy target. He could have, I believe, tried to go for the scoop on PoE side. It wouldn't have worked well for him, though.
Yeah, PoE, it's so risky to try to go for that play. When you know he has his Stone Plate available as well, it's going to be incredibly difficult to burst him down. And he has the ultimate even to retreat as well as the flash. So it would be a very difficult target to go for. They're trying to fight for vision. Now he's going in with Shen.
Tries for the scoop, gets a double knockup, keeps him there on that side. Taunt's going to land, they get the kill. One down, 5v4. FlyQuest, they have enough there. IgNar gets away. Tactical answers back though. IgNar going to drop as well. Mordekaiser's here to play. Santorin cannot assassinate this one. A double kill now for Impact, and they have everything they need. 4v2, the dive in for the slow. Solo's going to run for his life. Turtle does his very best, but just does no damage. And TL, it's time to push in.
If you can't burst him down, the shields become incredibly powerful throughout that fight. Jensen does get knocked down, but Turtle was not with the squad, and that means it's pretty much just PowerOfEvil to get that sustained damage through. They are able to easily win out in what was that 4v4 afterwards, and now it is straight over to the Baron. No jungler available for FlyQuest. This will be TL's Baron here, and they are going to be monstrously ahead of FlyQuest on Soul Point, and everything really is in their hands.
Even the Jensen respawn timer lined up well. Baron buff on 5, gold lead 8,000. Team Liquid assuredly are winning game 2 at this point in time. We'll see what the game 2 is going to look like, what FlyQuest's game plan is going to be. They can hope for a miracle. They have to stop Dragon Soul in 2.5, but the base might not even live that long.
It's going to be pretty tough, I think. You know, because it is TL, they're probably more likely to play for the Soul than just a straight up, push to victory here. They're generally the team that's willing to just continue to take those incremental advantages. We will see, though, because the siege is going to be very difficult, for FlyQuest to defend when you are this behind. The Azir and Ashe do have really strong wave clear, but Caitlyn is a really strong sieger and on 3 items and change. Orianna is on 3 completed items. PowerOfEvil is strong, but it feels like it's pretty much all on him to get something done.
Yeah, finally on the Death Cap power spike, though. That is a big deal. That is a damage increase. And we have seen time and again, the FlyQuest playstyle is try to one-shot the backline. The problem is, though, Impact is huge. He's got a ton of money. He has the highest individual gold lead over his opponent in anyone of any player in this game. 2.2 thousand ahead of Solo. He is on 3 completed AP items, a good 300-something ability power. He's got a solid, 200 armor in this build as well. This guy is basically unkillable. And even if you kill Jensen or Tactical, or maybe both, Impact still has enough damage to win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your whole team, when you're diving Jensen, is stacking up for his passive AoE that is just going to shred through your entire team. It's pretty much the dream situation for Mordekaiser when people are just trying to run through him to get to the back line, but they do get an Ashe arrow on him. Look at their shielding.
They stunned him and it didn't matter. His health bar literally never moved.
Jensen shield, command protect. The Lux shield, he activates his W there for his own shield from his passive, and yeah, they can't even break it. It's just...
This would have been a game for Red 5 Renekton, Just move Shen into the jungle, get Renekton empowered W, break the shields, suddenly it would be the right pick. Blitzcrank maybe, but it was banned, I think. Oh well, we're off the table on that one. Yeah, if only they had Blitzcrank, that would be a little bit different. But now we've got more plays on the top side, a little bit of poke comes through. Soul in 35, but first, top inhibitor is gone. Middle turret stays alive for the second, but pretty soon the team's going to show up and it won't be alive anymore. TL still grouped up, waiting to regen around. You got minions pushing around the rest of the map as here comes the rest of the play now. This is going to be under fire. That turret's going to be gone. And how about a re-engage? How about no chance to defend this one? Because if you can't fight for the turret, you can't fight for an open inhibitor either. TL very likely to get double inhib and then turn right around for Drake.
Yep, Tactical just using his range expertly here. You can see that Jensen and CoreJJ generally positioning themselves behind Tactical. They just know you don't need to all step forward and deal damage to the turret. You can stay back. So if IgNar goes for an engage, all he can find is Tactical, who has Cleanse, and then both of those shielding champions will be behind him to support him. And that is just really smart positioning. Don't need to get greedy for the autos there. Santorin with a little bit of poke. This is probably the last stand here for FlyQuest. They're going to contest.
Well, the good thing for FlyQuest is TL haven't fought. The actual gold lead is not 8,000 in inventories. It's more like 5. The Baron buff is gone. There is a chance at a fight. This is the moment that FlyQuest have to find somehow. They have to walk around the Caitlyn traps, wait those cooldowns out. Didn't go Reaver, so it's not, a ton of traps coming down too quickly. Tactical mana pool at half. PoE puts up a play to look for the arrow. They can't find it. They get damage on Jensen. Santorin flashes back out. How about the re-engage now? IgNar's in the death realm. He should not survive impact, but he can kite for a while. Needs to buy about 4 more seconds. He might just do so. Pop to Zonia's. 1 for 0 though. Santorin has dropped down. Impact traded back though. It's a 4v4. So in the front line, doesn't have the dodge zone, cannot survive the Caitlyn. And that is a 2 for 1 now. The frontliners are gone. FlyQuest lost their top laner. They lost their jungler. TL are 4v3. A big root. Burst towards IgNar, gets him very, very low as well. And Tactical WildTurtle, he's going to find that one. Crit shot dead. And IgNar is going to drop to the snipe as well. It is a 4v1 with super minions in the base. Who needs a Dragon Soul? They're going to get your next. Is Team Liquid going to win game 2?
They're going to tie it up here. No chance, really, for PowerOfEvil to defend. Team Liquid in full control over this one. Back to comfort in game number 2 and looking so damn good.
Rookie of the year, looking for their best split ever. Team Liquid looking for their 5th championship on the way to the final as they take game 2 of the upper bracket final. They got to do 2 more as they pad the KDAs. They take some time to pad out the play. Nexus will fall, and as the Nexus comes in, the minions do the last hitting as vengeance for game 1.
Team Liquid this game picking for the heavy bot 2v2 advantage and being paid back in full for that by Tactical and CoreJJ. Tactical scaling up, 9 kills he ends with, and CoreJJ, it seemed like every single time FlyQuest was going for an engage, he was right behind whoever was getting engaged on. Yeah. Never once being the person really to get caught out himself and burst down. He's always right behind Jensen, lands both halves of the shield, gives him just enough to survive through those close fights early on. And once they won enough of those, they created this massive gold lead to the point where, you know, as you were saying, even if you kill Jensen as they did in that one fight, it just doesn't matter anymore because Mordekaiser is running you over. Caitlyn is running you over. There are now too many threats, and Team Liquid was positioning too effectively to ever allow FlyQuest to get that multi-man knock-up from IgNar that they would have needed to have a chance to come back.
Yep, really well done. Expertly played by Team Liquid. CoreJJ on some huge saves, and all of the re-engages were so incredible. So TL walk away with a very dominant game 2. We're stepping away, but in return, we will have the State Farm Analyst Desk breaking down that TL win.
Yeah, I'm married. Doesn't matter. You do that for me? Really? Yeah, I'd like that.
Who are you talking to?
It's Jake from State Farm. Sounds like a really good deal.
Jake from State Farm at 3 in the morning? Who is this?
It's Jake from State Farm.
What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?
Khakis? Hey, do they ever ask you what you're wearing?
Yeah.
Red sweater, button-down shirt. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Duel your way to victory in this 1v1 League of Legends tournament. Many champions will be crowned, but only the best of the best will be a part of All-Star 2020. Learn more on redbull.com/soloq.
Welcome back to the LCS, where Team Liquid have struck back in our series, now 1-1 against FlyQuest. Mark Zimmerman's got some big thoughts.
I got big old thoughts to talk about, especially with pick order. I thought what FlyQuest was doing, I really appreciated. I'm going to nitpick the draft a little bit. I do think the bigger issues were in game, but I thought the idea to leave Caitlyn up again was smart, because the first game they over-prioritized Shen for Team Liquid side. You know that they're going to swap their priority to Caitlyn, and if you beat them again, this time, giving them the Caitlyn and taking the Shen yourself, you're putting Team Liquid in a terrible position where they've lost both sides of the matchup, so to speak, in terms of priority. So I thought that was a good idea, because it's a 5-game series. You can take risks. And if you beat them here and you're up 2-0 and you just beat them with 2 different priority first picks on their side, Team Liquid's dead in the water. So I appreciate that. I think the problem was they then didn't prioritize enough about securing a strong bot lane once you've given up the Caitlyn by going for the Rakan blind and giving CoreJJ counter pick.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of options that are still viable with the Caitlyn, whether it's an enchanter like the Lux, you could have even thought of something like a Leona that would have answered the Rakan. So this is the pick that is still in the wheelhouse of IgNar, where he's just very bold and saying, like, this is how I'm going to play make. I'm going to lock this in and hope to get past the laning phase. So they're not thinking about the laning. It's more about, let's just get past this. Let's assume that Team Liquid is going to play. Just try to split the lane evenly. So Team Liquid bringing the hurt in the laning phase through the bot lane. Just never let go and never really gave Rakan a good chance to start influencing the map in the way that he'd like to.
Now, probably on top of some of those picks just being good into what was drafted by FlyQuest, and most notably that Lux into the Rakan, in general, that FlyQuest, or rather that Team Liquid composition, seems ideal.
Yeah, this is exactly what TL wants to play, but it's not even the fact that they got to play their own way. It was FlyQuest kept forcing plays and mis-executing. This time, PowerOfEvil had so many good plays in the first game, but this time he does WEQ, auto, and then R. And this gap of his auto attack that takes up just ruins the chain CC and gives Jensen the amount of time to flash out. And this is the kind of like execution errors we start seeing from FlyQuest more, and this is very opposite of the way Team Liquid plays, where they're not the team that beats themselves.
It's opposite to FlyQuest in general. We usually don't see such large mistakes when it comes to team fighting from them in this game, but this game had them all. This game really just showed that something wasn't clicking for FlyQuest, so that they maybe felt like they had to pull the trigger harder than they should, because this fight thus far, it's like, okay, you got a 1 for 2.
This
not
was a close
bad.
one.
Right, not bad, right? It seems pretty good. You can take the Herald, you can reset, you can start pushing, but then, okay, you trade another 1 for 1. Now you're actually going to trade another one. Okay, all right.
okay,
3 for 3. 2 people left, right? All right, guys. It's still salvage, right? We can still go back.
I think target selection in this fight is definitely to be blamed. Turtle just kind of running blind past the Caitlyn, who's well within auto attack range in front of that Rift Herald, and then stepping onto a trap that had been sitting there for a couple seconds. Just not the cleanest, Mark.
Right, and I think that's the thing, is all these are still mostly initiated by FlyQuest. They're the aggressors, and this is what makes Team Liquid such a daunting opponent to play against, is if you're not 100% on, if your engages aren't perfectly clean, if you try and sneak an extra auto attack in there, they'll punish you for it. Team Liquid does not make their own mistakes. You have to force yours upon them. And so the fact that FlyQuest wasn't super clean, Team Liquid, unlike anyone else in playoffs right now in North America, will not make their own mistakes and hard punish yours. And that's basically what happened with those 3 successful engages, where they had too many reactive shields, so the engages weren't clean. Then they fell a little bit behind. They didn't have the goal to actually one-shot people through the first combo, and then they just keep killing you over and over.
I mean, I will say, Team Liquid, the one mistake that they made the last game was getting engaged on when they were trying to make that kind of team fight at Dragon at 29 minutes. However, after that, specifically in this game, it didn't seem like they gave too many options where they're just saying like, hey, you can just beat us here. So this is the kind of thing where, yeah, your execution always has to be on, because Team Liquid doesn't give that many chances to actually fight back against them.
I mean, you saw that gold graph was cleanly up and to the right. That's the indicator of exactly what you're talking about there, probably, that Team Liquid, while FlyQuest was bringing the fights to them, never rather let one go the other way. I want to quickly reframe towards game number 3 then, because while this was FlyQuest bringing it but getting stuffed left and right by Team Liquid, really I think what this comes down to is what's going to happen in game 3 with FlyQuest choosing blue side. A bit of a meta maybe defining itself in this best of 5 as compared to the red side picking we had just yesterday.
Defining the meta, and some of that we've already known before. It's just showing up now since the teams have let it through. Caitlyn, Huge freaking priority.
Is
Let's just get over it. Both teams got to win on it. Ban it on red. Let's move on and see what happens, because this is really now a decider game. You're starting a best of 3 now.
Yeah.
As both teams are 1-1.
That's a great way to reframe it in your head. And I think, different series metas evolve. In yesterday's, it was a red side series meta. You had heavy counter picking going on in solo lanes. You did not have either team really prioritizing Caitlyn, and so it made sense to me that teams were prioritizing red side a little bit more. This game, you have AFK tanks in the top lane for the most part and frontliners, and you have a heavy priority on counter picking and power picking in bot lane. So I think this is one where it totally makes sense to see FlyQuest wanting this blue side and forcing TL to ban the Caitlyn, or continue trying to find interesting things into it because you're going to first pick it.
It sounds like bot lane then, but how does the rest of the team build around those bot lanes? Let's say that both these teams find what they want down there in the duo lanes. How do we support those best from the side of FlyQuest and Team Liquid?
Globals, so picks like Shen, picks like Gangplank that can assist the bottom lane. I mean, I don't think mid lane is going to be picking globals either, so I think it's just going to be the top side, and because it's tank versus tank and mid control mage versus control mage, jungle picks make a big difference. So whichever jungler can actually have priority in the 1v1 can also influence that bot lane sooner, and then just start chaining dives into the bot lane. So this game just comes down to that lane.
Let's talk jungle, though, for a moment, Mark, because we had the Kha'Zix come out, and there were a couple instances where you could see what the Kha'Zix was meant to do, but it never came to fruition. Should Santorin just go back to setting up his team?
I liked it, the Kha'Zix. I wouldn't want to throw.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
No, let me talk over the jungler, who's a professional jungle player. I got this. No, Crumbs, you give your thoughts first.
No, what? I just made a bad joke.
He was calling out my unintentional pun of setting up the team.
I thought you were like, wait a minute, I have a jungler.
No, Mark and I are the dummies who just blew right past that.
Our brains don't think on that wavelength. I was gonna say the Kha'Zix, an assassin jungler who falls behind because of flubbed plays, is going to look pretty bad, but I thought the overall execution should be cleaned up, could still work, so I don't want to completely throw in the trash can yet. But that said, there's 4 jungle bans in the first game, 6 in the second game.
Yeah.
Without it feeling like it's influencing the series too much, I feel like both junglers are still getting things they want. The set was still up there. You could have easily seen a set volley matchup in the jungle, which is why I'm a little unsure of why there's quite so many jungle bans. Some of them I understand, like Lilia and Graves, but it feels like too many.
Alrighty. Too many jungle bans. Get rid of them. Maybe throw some towards the bot lane. Yeah, exactly. It's all tied up 1-1 as we head into Game 3 after this short break. We'll see you back here.
It's Jake from State Farm. Sounds like a really good deal.
Jake from State Farm at 3 in the morning. Who is this?
It's Jake from State Farm.
What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?
Khakis? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.